Happy Friday, everybody. So today I'll be introducing you guys to a project we're going to start. Don't be intimidated by the word project. It isn't too much that we're going to have to do for it, but it's just a little bit more extended than your standard assignment. So what we have is just a few pages. Here's the printed out copy, but there is a version in Schoology for those of you online to work on. So what we're going to be doing is using the distance and midpoint formula to apply it to real world situations and think about how the city around us is affected by distance. So there's a few things that you're going to be responsible for with this project. So I want to see a clearly labeled community on a coordinate grid. Now there's a few options for doing that. You can either use physical graph paper. This isn't a notebook, but you can graph it on actual graph paper, take a photo of it, and show it to me in the file upload. Or you can use an online graphing calculator, and I'll demonstrate that to you in a little bit. I also want all of your mathematical answers to be accurate for you to calculate these things. For your findings to be presented in a clear and organized format. For your reflection questions to be answered in full sentences using proper writing techniques. That you choose and support your decision on where to build the new park. And for your conclusion answers for the big question, or excuse me, that your conclusion answers the big question for our project, which is, how do Cartesian coordinates help us visualize mathematical relationships? Okay, so taking a look at our very first question, it's going to ask you to grid a few different things. So I'm going to switch over to screen share. And I'm going to hit up, let me hide this real quick. There we go. An online graphing calculator. So Desmos is probably the easiest to use one that's out there. I absolutely adore it. And all you have to do is go to the graphing calculator. You'll pull up a screen like this, and in it, you can plot your points over here. So for example, and this is not going to be true to the actual project, you need to reference the question to know where to plot your points. I'm making these up. If you have a point at 1, 1, you can type 1, 1 in here, and it'll plot it on your graph for you. You can also choose to label your point. So maybe this is where the local Walmart is located. There is no Walmart in your project. Again, I'm making these up. Do not copy this exactly. I'm demonstrating for you all. So whenever you label or put a point on your graph, I'm going to want you to label it. You can choose the color of your point or whether it shows up in your settings. You can choose how big or small your font is, whether your words are going horizontal or vertical, and you can choose the position of your label here. So that's all more nitty-gritty than anything. But as long as you have your label typed in, I can't speak. As long as you have your point typed in and you label it, you're good to go. If you want to add a new point, you can click below and then put in your next point, which I'm going to lie and say 2, 2. I'm going to label that. And this is where the McDonald's is. And again, you can always go in and edit your labels and all of that so they're easier to see. Now for you to be able to show me the graph of your city, so say this is it, you can adjust the zoom however you please so that you can see all of your points, and you can take either a screenshot or you can go up to this button right here, choose share graph, and you can either copy the link and paste it, or you can export the image. This one's probably the easiest one. and you see it exports just a picture of your graph. So that's why I like the export. You would download the PNG, and then you would attach that file in the file upload for me. And of course, you can choose different settings based on how you want it to look, depending on how large or small you need it to be. So just adjust it so that I can see all the points on your graph just fine. So I'm going to have you do that at 2 separate parts of the assignment, once for the initial question, and then once again when you plot the possible location for your new park. All the other pieces should be done just fine within Schoology itself. So I'm going to go to the assignment real quick and show you guys. So it's going to start out, and I can hit preview. With the introduction. So how does access to resources create a stronger community? And we want to help understand, how do Cartesian coordinates help us visualize mathematical relationships? Or how do plotted points like this help us visualize relationships? All right, so it tells you your criteria here. It's going to ask you to graph these points here. So these are the ones you're actually going to be plotting and labeling on your graph, either physically on paper or on the graphing calculator online. And then right here, you'll be able to upload your file of any of these formats. So if you export it as a PNG, you can upload that. If you take a picture on your phone and it's a JPEG, you could upload that. You have a lot of different options here. So once you upload your file of your graph, however you take it, you can move on to the next question. And this is asking you to find the midpoint between the high school and elementary school. So you're going to want to look at your graph and figure out what those 2 points are and find the midpoint. And you would type your X coordinate in here and your Y coordinate in here. All right. One of the reasons that this is a project is because you have a lot of things that I want to hear from you in the word or in the way of typing or words. So for example, why might someone be interested in finding the midpoint between 2 community resources? I want you to type your answers in the blank here. Please do your best to use proper sentence structure so that I'm able to read it. If English is not your first language and you're struggling to write in English, it's totally okay if you write in Spanish as well. And please use at least 2 sentences for each of these so you're actually conveying your thoughts to me. So think about the question, think about how it is in reality. I mean, if you are standing in between the elementary school and the high school, why might that location be important? What might be beneficial for a community member to know where the middle of those 2 resources is? Maybe think about where someone might choose to live if they have kids attending both of those schools. All right, so on question number 4, it's asking you to plot 2 more points, Park A and Park B. So you're going to add to your graph either your digital graph or your physical one, and you're going to take a new picture and upload the new picture here with the added Park A and Park B. After you do that, it's going to ask you to find the distance between certain community resources and the possible park locations. So in each of these boxes, you'll type the distance. So if the distance was 150, spoiler alert, it is not, you would type 150 in that box. If it was 150.59, you would type 150.59. Whatever answer you get, you would put in this box here. I'm asking you all to round to the nearest 10th place. So if it was 150.59, you would type 150.6 because it rounds up. All right. So you do 6 different distance formulas on this page, and you'll move on and explain. Based on the distances you calculated, would you choose location A or B for the new park? And please justify yourself. Explain why you chose park A or B. Maybe you found that the distance from the park to the jail wasn't optimal, or the park to the hospital was optimal for something. So think about, how close would you want a park to be to your city jail? Or how close might you want a park to be to an elementary school so the kids can use it? Think about those things when you type your answer. Now this is going less mathematics and more real world. So think about the community that you live in. Think about resources that would make that community better to live in, maybe environmentally friendly, economically better, or socially better. There's a lot of stuff going on in our world right now, and that is an understatement. And so I feel like these things are important for us to be thinking about. What do we want out of our communities? As you become adults, that'll be super duper important for you and where you choose to live. You want to live somewhere that has the resources that are better for you. Personally, I would like to live somewhere with a very good recycling program. And I know Colleen recently got rid of theirs. So think about those sorts of things when you're answering this, and make sure you're listing 3 different resources that make your community more sustainable in one way or another, whether it be about social issues, money issues, or physical environment issues. Think about, for number 8, the town that you've drawn out. Would it be easy for somebody without a car to live there? Think about the distances you found between the different resources. How far would it take to get from school to the hospital? If it takes a really long time to get there, it may not be very easy for somebody who doesn't have a car. Or maybe think about how far it is from a school to a library. Is that really close? If it was super close, you may not need a car. But if it's really far, you would need a car. So think about those things when you answer number 8. And 9. I'm once again asking you to think about the city you live in. Is it sustainable? So if you live in Colleen, do you think Colleen is a sustainable town? Do you think its social programs, economic programs, and environmental programs are good? If so, then what do you think is good about them? What resources do we have that are good? And if you don't think the city you live in is sustainable, what do you think they could add to make it better? I know that's a big question being asked across the country right now in many communities that are absolutely ravaged by social issues. People in the community are asking, what can we do to make this more sustainable for people to live in communities that are being ravaged by economic disparities, where people aren't making enough money to live. There's a lot of questions being asked there. What can we do to make it more economically sustainable? All right, so here's one of the extra credit questions. It's asking you, if the midpoint between the mall and the high school is 3.5, 7, what are the coordinates of the mall? So this one is backwards from how we did midpoint yesterday. It's giving you the midpoint in one of the points, and you have to figure out the other coordinate point. So I put a little hint here. If your midpoint is found, using this formula, and you know your midpoint, and you know the coordinates of the high school, you will be solving for the coordinates of the mall, your x2 and your y2. So plug in what you know and see how could you figure out how to do that. And if you want some extra guidance on that, you can always reach out to me. All right, then here's the big question. How do Cartesian coordinates help us to visualize mathematical relationships? So here I want to hear what you discovered through the process of doing this project and answering these questions. How did physically seeing the points on the map help you to better understand your different community resources? How did they help you better understand things between those points, like distance and midpoint? And lastly, we have another opportunity for extra credit. So I wanted to build two different ways in, one being mathematical extra credit and the other one being more artistic, creative. That way you have plenty of different ways to show me a little bit of extra effort in this project. So for this, I want you to upload a title page with an image of your city. You can hand draw it, or it can be something you made on the computer in one way or another, whether it's drawn on the computer or you compiled a collage of images. But if you pull a picture straight from Google, like if you go to Google and you type in pictures of cities, and you attach, oh my goodness, these are all about pandemics, and you attach this picture, that won't do because all you did was Google something that didn't really take any effort. But if you Google a picture for a hospital and a picture for an elementary school and a picture for an airport, and you kind of compile those all together into one picture, then that took you some effort and some creativity, and I can award points for that. So I did two hand-drawn examples here. The first one is a little more simplistic and stylized. We have a funky house, a hospital, a school, and a little store. And this shows me some creativity and how you decided to do things. It isn't anything artistically genius, I would say, but it's enough to show me that you put some extra effort into this project. And then the second one, I just wanted to show, it's not like it exactly has to be colored. I can see from this one that quite a bit of effort was put into drawing the city, even though it isn't all completely colored in. So if you were to submit something like this, I would be pretty blown away. And that would get you some nice extra bonus points. But both of these are good options, whether it has color or doesn't, whether it's simple and stylized or detailed. Either way, I just kind of want to see how you guys envision this and what sort of creative things you can create. And again, this is extra credit. So if you're not really an artist, then that's totally okay. You don't have to worry about this aspect of the project. So whenever you have your picture, you can upload the file just like you did the other ones, either taking a picture of it with your phone, taking a screenshot of it, or saving the image in one way or another, and you can upload it here. So that's a run through of the whole project. I don't want to make this video any more longer than it probably already is, but the most important parts of this project are doing those calculations and then writing those answers for me, because I want to see your guys' thoughts and feelings on these things. I think that's really important to think about as you're getting closer and closer to true adulthood and independence. All right. If you have any questions, as usual, just reach out to me and let me stop sharing my screen. Just reach out to me, let me know, and I'll answer them the best that I can. This project is not due today. That would be a little bit extreme. You have until next Friday, so you have the weekend and all of next week to be working on this. Next week, we're only going to have 2 assignments, so there will be 2 or 3 days that week that you'll have the ability to work on this project. All right, I'll see you guys next time.